Hi, I'm Angela, and this is Everyday Expertise, and I'm with Michelle Franklin, award-winning author of Hanta series. It is a series.
It's a fantasy series.
It's a fantasy series.
Humoristic
yes, I knew that.
fantasy series.
It is a fantasy series and a soon-to-be trilogy of creative nonfiction, biographical books. I Hate Summer, I Hate Everyone, and the next one coming is I Hate Everything.
Yeah.
And her bio, which I have to read because I love it, is a woman of moderate consequence who writes many things. Scientist, Knight of the Spade, agronomist, bibliothecary,
Yes.
lucubrator,
Lucky Braider.
really?
You got it.
Philologist,
Yep.
professor emeritus,
That's true.
burgeoning valetudinarian.
Not burgeoning anymore.
No, that's true. A wit.
That is correct.
That is true. So, what do you mean by all these words you've put out?
We can go through them one by one if you want.
Well, an agronomist is someone who studies soil.
It's a very fancy word for being a farmer. Yes.
Yes, basically.
Correct.
Well, more of an agricultural scientist, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah. People who go to a university, and then go back to the farm.
Most farmers have to go to university now. They
Nowadays,
have to have
because it's so complicated, right?
Well, even if they want to have a crop, say if they work for the global giant of the EU, they have to have a bachelor's degree.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Agricultural studies.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like it used to be where you just inherited your farm from the dad and then let it go dairy. Now you can't do that anymore.
And then most of these mean person who loves books.
Specifically, so a bibliothecary is somebody who collects books.
Yes.
Philologist is somebody who loves words.
Mm-hmm.
A lucubrator is somebody who lies down in bed.
Or works at night.
Yes. So works by candlelight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Professor emeritus?
Well, I did teach at one point.
Did you?
Yeah, and I still do.
Oh.
I still do my writing classes.
Oh, yes, of course. You do your workshops, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the valetudinarian is someone who suffers, right?
Valetudinarian is somebody who feels or acts older than they actually are. So in Emma, Mr. Woodhouse, her father is a valetudinarian all his life. So he's somebody who, I think he's supposed to be 60, and yet he acts as though he's 95, going, open the windows. You can't open the windows. That's me.
Yeah. No, I know. Constantly opening the windows, closing the windows.
Just sit down in the meat freezer and shut up.
Yep.
That's my life. Just be quiet.
All right, but we are primarily here to talk about your writing.
Oh, no. Nobody wants to hear about that.
I would hope that some people want to hear about it.
No, I say that because, I put all my stuff online, so people read it rather than talk about it.
Yeah. Well, who knows? One day people will talk about it more than read it.
Maybe.
It'll end up in university literature courses.
She's only saying this to plague me because we went to the same university together.
Yes, that's true. It's true. Full disclosure, we met in university. All right, so let's get down to brass tacks. How did you start with the writing?
I had a terrible childhood, and I think that's how most writing starts. I really don't think you can have a happy childhood and be a militant introvert and a writer at the same time. I don't think it's possible. So when I was growing up, and there was really nothing for me to do but to write, go to the library, and play video games, and that's pretty much what I do now. Same thing.
So you're consistent. That's important. Consistency is important.
That is. Constancy is something that I strive at. I don't know why. I guess because I go for safe things. Books are safe.
Yeah.
Video games are safe. Anything else to me is dangerous. Just again, the valetudinarian comes in. But I also grew up with a lot of physical problems. So writing was something that I could do where I would not hurt myself more than I am already hurt.
That's probably good. Yes.
I think maybe I was in 4th grade when I started writing stories about terrible cat people, and it just continued on from there.
Did you did you mainly, I guess, write for yourself, or did you write with the hope of people reading it, or?
A little of both, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we always start out writing for ourselves, and then when a publisher tells you, we don't know how to market that, and you realize, okay, well, maybe I do have to figure it out a little bit. The famous example of that is like The Princess Bride.
Oh yeah.
When William Goldman, when he wrote it, he said, well, what is this? Is this a romance? Is it a fantasy? It's not really a fairy tale. We don't know how to market it. It actually didn't do well. And now we think of it and we think, who doesn't know of The Princess Bride?
No,
but
I know.
So when it comes to traditional publishing, you do have to think about an audience and marketing. But if you want to self-publish, you can do whatever you want.
It's true. And I mean, the market is expanding now. You have the internet, you have fairs, you have zines, you have all sorts of things that probably didn't exist when we were kids.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
I mean, you'll always have like the publishers' fairs and things like that. But in terms of Comic-Con now extending to writers and all these different writers events like Blue Met that we have here.
Yeah.
Those didn't exist when we were younger.
No, pretty much not. All right, let's move on here. All right, so this show is very much about process. So, walk me through your process. So let's say from idea to finished product or finished book.
So first I get up and then I have tea.
Well, that's important.
And biscuits.
Yeah.
And then I go to the washroom.
Okay, let's move ahead a bit. Yeah.
And I get ready for the day.
Yeah.
And then I sit down and do the work.
Right.
It's work.
Yeah.
That's it. It's work like anything else is work. It takes time. And my process is very simple. I don't really make outlines because I find that when people make very strict outlines, they box themselves into the idea that they originally had and don't just let it go.
Yeah.
And then they get stuck. I don't get writer's block because I don't inhibit myself in that way. However, you also run into the problem of writing too much, which is what I do. I end up putting out 4 or 5 books a year and making everybody else look bad.
That's not very good.
But so for the fantasy side of things, because the Hanta series is maybe about 4 different concurrent series at once. Some of them are short stories, so I'll write a story a day and that's it, and then I'll put it out and it's finished. Some of them are novellas, like all of the ones with Captain Danako, the Merida novella series set. They take about maybe 2 months.
Right.
And then I finish one novella and move on to another one. And but for the contiguous series, all the books, which there are about 58 of them now, they take about, I would say, anywhere from 6 months.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm writing other things in between. Process is always the same. It's always I start off just with a small idea of where I think it's going to begin and where I think it's going to end.
Yeah.
But I don't make the table of contents and that I don't bullet point like this. Some people are like that, but I don't. I find that very inhibiting and I don't like that. But for the nonfiction series that I do, it's really just who annoys me most today, or what horrible thing happened today that I would like to get over and share with people. And it's usually terrible, but I make it funny. Yeah. Because you really can't make some of this shit up. No. Some of the stuff that does happen to me is just really ridiculous. But I find that that's the way it is with everybody. Because everybody is really a character. Yeah. And they have their own personality and their own quirks. And I think people just don't realize it. So whenever I don't write the nonfiction stuff every day. Right. But whenever I do, it's usually about 4 or 5 pages at once. And then I post it, but then I take it and I put it into a book, and I usually put a date on it, and that's about it. That's it. And I write. I sit and I write for about 10 to 12 hours a day nowadays. Used to be more, but health reasons don't allow me to do that anymore. But I'll spend maybe half the time on a nonfiction, or half the time on fiction, but one short story, and then a piece of either a novella or something like that. Right.
How did you get started with? How did you get started with putting together those nonfiction books? Like, I noticed you had a lot of sort of very long and interesting Facebook posts. So the sort of compiled them.
I have to blame my friends Akbar and Akbar. I'm blaming you. and my friends Svante and Saga, because I used to write about my downstairs neighbor, not the current one. Those people are fine. The downstairs neighbor I had 3 years ago was an absolute riot. He was a golden trove of comedy, because he would, at 2 a.m, he would decide that he was a T-Rex and that he was going to jump out the window and start making robot noises while snarling at the same time. But it was amazing. It really was. I don't know whether he was on mescaline or just that's how he was. He was a wonderfully nice guy, but he would do random things like just start singing Pocahontas' Colors of the Wind, and I would shout back to him the correct lyrics because he was getting it wrong. But people just didn't believe how ridiculous he was, that I started writing about him, and people loved it, and they said, why don't you do this? Can you please put this together into a book and compile it? He moved out, unfortunately, before I started that, but I decided, okay, you know what, I might as well put it together. I actually, in 2016, which is when I started putting out the books for nonfiction, I had very bad summer depression. It's called SAD, right? It's a seasonal affective disorder, which is really what it is. It was horrible. It was like 30 degrees every day, Celsius for the Americans. 30 degrees every day. It was about 80% humidity, and it wouldn't rain. And it just went on like this from the beginning of May all the way until October. And I really wanted to die. I really did. And not because, for any sort of glorification or anything like that. I just couldn't take it anymore.
No.
My body felt like it was imploding in on itself, and everything hurt. My joints hurt, legs hurt. But I decided to start writing about it, and I discovered that a lot of people identified with it, and I just kept going with it, and that gave birth to I Hate Summer, and then we just continued the series with different relatable names. That's all.
No, it works, right? Those books are good. No, I mean, I'm not just saying this for the video. These are good books. I've been reading them. I enjoy reading them. I'm a slow reader. I'm getting through them.
Well, that's why I have them in 1 or 2 pages, so this way you can just. I have a friend. He's a photographer. He's in his early 70s, but he's hilarious. And he told me that he keeps my book in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So this way he can go through each day as one bathroom visit. Thought it was great. It was hilarious.
That's good. Yeah. It's one way to go through it. Oh, all right. Do you have influences? You have very unique sort of writing, but would you say they're
the classics?
The classics.
Yeah. I mean, I do have a very interesting vocabulary. I don't really think I'm terribly good or that I'm that unique. I just think nobody else is trying hard enough. And because we all read the same books,
right.
But my favorite authors are T.H. White and Paul Creswick. An author that nobody even knows anymore. He wrote an amazing version of Robin Hood in the early 1900s. Read Paul Creswick's Robin Hood, amazing. And Jane Austen, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm actually rereading a brand new translation of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is fantastic. So those are my influences. The classics are my influences. Oh, I would be remiss actually if I didn't mention Terry Pratchett, of course, and David Eddings and Douglas Adams for the style of humor that I like.
Yes,
the very
course.
quick and dark sort of style of humor.
No, I would say that makes sense.
I don't think I could ever do sarcasm, I think, as well as Sir Terry, because his satirical aspect of things is very particular, and I don't think anybody can really touch that.
If you're talking about that, it's very British.
Yeah.
Yes. And no one does that kind of wit like the British. Certainly not.
The quick, dry quips, one-offs, yeah. Or the yarns that they tell, and they just have you keep going until the end. And then
we can do it as Canadians, in a way. But we're not quite
We're the milquetoast version.
Yeah. We're the much more polite version.
That's true.
Yes. Well, in true Canadian fashion, if we want something done, we write an angry letter.
I am a little upset. or just put it in a bag.
Yes. A polite, angry letter.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see if we're doing it.
All right.
It might just be sleep time.
Let's get on to more questions.
We'll see how it goes.
What is something you wish you'd known about writing?
Goodbye, friends. Actually, I think
Before you started.
something that I wish I would known. I would say maybe about publishing.
4th grade, Michelle. What do you think? 4th grade, what Michelle should have known before she embarked on this journey.
One thing that I always tell everybody in my classes is getting published is not the hard part. It's everything after that. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
It's continuing writing. It's marketing your work. It's going to the events, which is very difficult for me as somebody who likes to be an introvert. It's hard for me to actually go to events, but I have to do it. I make myself do it anyway, and then I just go to sleep for 2 days, But it's the legwork, talking about your book, continually meeting people, treating it as a business. That's something that I wish I had known before I was first. 2005, I think, was the first time I had ever had anything really published. I had something published when I was in high school in like Newsday, but that was like a tiny thing like this.
Yeah.
But in terms of books and really taking it seriously, yes, it's an art form, but it's a profession.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think people understand. They think they're going to get published and then they're going to get $1 million. And then there are something like 5 million authors who are mid-list. I'm certainly not a millionaire. Somebody make me one.
Yeah.
I'll make somebody else one in return.
Someone buy the movie rights.
Yes. But that you mentioned that, but that's essentially how you will make most of your money.
Pretty much.
And I think
media.
I also don't think that young writers understand. I say young. I mean, I'm not that young, but I don't think young writers understand that publishers, if you want to go with a traditional publishing house, they will take a good portion of your royalties, which is essentially your paycheck. Yeah. And yes, they're the ones who do all the editing and all the formatting and all of the marketing for your book, which is 90% of the work.
Although these days you have to do a lot of your own
marketing.
Yeah,
and even these days I was contacted by a publisher, I won't say which one, but they said, you seem to be pretty mid-list and you have a very good social media presence. We're maybe considering buying your nonfiction series. And then at that point I said, well, are you going to offer me anything better than what I already have for my nonfiction series, which is nothing? And they said, well, we can distribute it. That's what it is. So I said, okay, fine. We'll think about that. But most publishers these days, there are no more advances. Like there used to be in the old days. They see it. No more advances. No more of the. There's also no more quietness. There's no more introversion allowed, really.
No, not really.
Because even though you have to be on social media, you still have to maintain that yourself. Your publisher does not do that for you. That's one thing I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known how much physical work it was going to be, rather than me just sitting behind the keys going all day.
I know, right?
But the other thing I really wish I would have known is how important a support group or a support team would be. I don't advocate for writing in groups because I feel like you know how it is, that people don't really focus on the writing and they focus more on who liked what best.
Yeah.
Where you should be really focusing on the technical aspect of your writing. And when things didn't go well for my first 2 books, I didn't have that support net. Because I refused to go online. And not because I hated it, I didn't. It was just something I was not comfortable with.
Right.
And I had to get really comfortable in it. So I would say learn how to cultivate an audience. That's something that, again, they don't teach you in publishing and editing and writing. They don't teach you that. So, publishing, they teach you how to make brochures. They teach you how to make your book look pretty. But they don't actually teach you how to market it in a modern day world.
No, they don't.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else I would have told myself? Get used to being poor.
Yeah.
Get used to being poor.
Yeah. At least for a very long time.
Very long time.
Until you hopefully make a living out of it.
Yes. I will say this.
There are so many writers who are just teachers.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a day job.
There are two things I would say. That one, you have to understand there are different types of writing, right? There's technical writing and then there's creative writing. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. Second thing, there's writing for money and then there's writing for self. There's a lot of work in writing for money.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of work in ghostwriting. A lot of work in...
Although even that, sometimes it's hard to find people who will pay you money.
Yeah, well, they'll try to pay you as little as possible because they have to give the name on the book. I mention no names because I actually don't know any ghostwriters at the moment. I used to know some, but I don't know any. But I have been offered to ghostwrite for other writers, and I have said no because for me personally, I don't feel it's right. Because I would be very upset if I wrote something that was really good and then had to put somebody else's name on it. Yes, sorry for the pauses. There's so many people who are waving.
We are, by the way, at KerPowCon, which is pop culture, nostalgia, art festival.
So that's what I would say is if you want to write for yourself, you have to understand that audience and you have to understand the thing that you are writing for yourself, and whether you want to put it aside or that's the thing that you want to market. If you want to write for money, there is an avenue for that, but it's going to be shallow, and you may feel hurt by it, but there's no denying that there is money in it.
Certainly paid credit cards and rent paid and
oh honey, let me tell you, I have
makes you feel a little better.
I went to the doctor when I went to the doctor yesterday. They gave me a bad diagnosis, as they always do, so I don't care about it anymore. But they said to me, I said, oh, am I dying? And the doctor said no. And I said, please, I really don't want to pay my credit card bill. I said the same thing when I actually was dying in the hospital once a long time ago. And I remember waking up and seeing a floating head of a nurse. And I thought, oh, that's it. It's happened. I'm dead. And I remember saying to her, am I dead? And she goes, no, you're not dead. And I said, please just put me back. I don't want to pay my credit card bill.
All right,
I could have solved a lot of my problems writing for money, but I did do it once, and I was really not. It wasn't for me. There are people who can do it very easily, and I cannot do it easily. So.
Yeah. No, there are people who make money hand over fist, writing for pay.
I take that back. I actually do know somebody who's ghostwriting, somebody who's doing scripts, and she is doing okay. So, but her own book has been on the back burner for 6 years.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's a choice. Right? It's a choice that you have to make.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, we know about how aspects of your life have affected your writing. How would you say writing has affected other aspects of your life?
That's a very good question. It's allowed me, for lack of a better word, it's allowed me to be more introspective and be more of myself. I did work for companies. I've worked for bookstores and retail. I did work for game companies. I did work in public, and it was very difficult for me for a number of reasons, health reasons and personality. But writing has allowed me to communicate without being forced to fornicate with society.
That is an excellent word for it, I think.
It's true. I mean, or I would say frauding with society. Frauding means to rub up with somebody like that.
Yes, I know.
it's also helped me as somebody who does have a lot of physical problems. It's given me a place where I can sort of exist and not bother anybody else. So, like I say, it's not a lucrative life, but it is fulfilling, and I think that's something. It's given me satisfaction, which is something I never had in any other profession.
Okay, let's do this. Favorite things about writing, least favorite things about writing. I'm sure even if you love what you're doing, there's got to be something that frustrates you.
So favorite things about writing.
I mean, we've talked a little about this already.
Yeah,
the whole sort of
creation,
introversion,
the communication aspect of it.
Yeah.
The translation, the ability to show people what actually goes on in my head about 10 hours a day. Even if it's nonfiction.
Yeah.
Because there is a little bit of a fantastic aspect to the nonfiction that I write. I would say
only in the idea that you might not believe that these things actually happen, but they do.
There are people who are mentioned in the books who are real. I mean, I don't use anybody's real name because I'm not allowed, but people are there, and they remember being there, and they have said on the post, they said, no, I was there, that actually happened. So, but things that I dislike, I wouldn't say I dislike the writing aspects. Okay, I'll say this. I dislike not being able to write more than one thing at a time. I would just clone myself, but put myself in other rooms because I don't want to bother with myself. And one person will write the nonfiction, one person will write the short stories, one person will write the novels. This way I could just finish everything. I think that's the one thing that I really hate about writing is that I never feel like it's enough or it's never finished.
Right.
Because I have so much that I want to finish. That even if I've written 3,000 words a day or 10 pages a day or whatever, I always just want to. It's not that I always want to keep going because I do get exhausted, but I always feel like, okay, that's done. Now I have to get this finished. Now, but then I have to go to this convention, and then I have to go teach that class, and then this. So I wish that I didn't have to do. I could split myself so I could do the physical aspect of the marketing aspect of writing, and then do all the other stuff. By myself in a corner, and that's it. A lot of people, I know I've heard people say the loneliness gets them, but I don't get that. In fact, I would say that's a positive for the writing because it's a very great difference between loneliness and being alone.
Yeah.
I like being alone. Many people don't like loneliness. So I enjoy being by myself in front of the computer. Because, I mean, especially with the internet, we're not really ever alone anymore. You know, so.
Well, I think there's a difference between being lonely and being alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Loneliness is you feel the absence of people. Being alone means you are without people.
Yeah. Yeah. And for an introvert like me, it means that you're recharging.
Are you the kind of writer who needs like total quiet, or do you need to be? Do you need music? Do you need
no, it doesn't really.
Sounds of people? Do you need there's websites now that give you cafe sounds, atmosphere.
Actually, there's an amazing channel I like called Guild of Ambiance. Go look it up. Yeah. Guild of Ambiance, and they have amazing background stuff. They have like fantasy town background.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. A blacksmith background, potion shop background. Really amazing stuff, and very high quality. Sometimes I'll have something like that. Actually, I use that more to help me sleep. rather than write. Writing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether I have music or not. I just need to have not bullshit going on. So I need to not have my neighbor across the hall yelling. I need, to not have my neighbor under me throwing furniture around at 3 a.m. That's what I need. I just don't need that. I also need to be left alone for maybe about 4 hours at a time. Because usually for the first hour I do editing, and then I will railroad through to finishing as much as I can, and getting to a decent part where I think it's okay to stop for the night. Never stop in the middle of a sentence or a paragraph, ever.
Right. So you don't do that? That is a technique, eh? It's like you stop before you finish the last sentence or something like this, so you have somewhere to go the next time.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's something going on in the other room. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, so I can't have that going on.
Yeah.
While I'm writing.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but I just have cat hair on my nose. So I look like a strange like.
I think anyone who lives with cats has cat hair on them at all times.
Yeah. Oh, there's a burlesque dance going on.
Ah. Okay, you know what? And we're back.
Burlesque is over.
Burlesque is over. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't take the camera into the burlesque show.
It was very exciting though.
But-
There was somebody dressed as He-Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't even
she
see
did
that.
a He-Man burlesque.
I was not even looking. All right, so yeah, we talk about how you don't have block.
I don't know.
So this is
I
not
have the opposite problem. I have logorrhea.
Lotteria.
Verbal diarrhea. Well, writer diarrhea. Yeah.
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 Yeah, you're the person that most writers love to hate, right? The person who has no block.
Yes, but I mean, I don't understand why. Only because, look, I can write a hole in the head, you know.
Yeah.
But people have to read it. That's the point. If nobody's going to read it, then
That's true.
Then it doesn't matter.
And you're just, crying into the wilderness, right?
Yeah, for no reason.
But stress, obstacles, you must experience that.
Money.
In writing.
That's it, really.
Money. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you cope with the lack of money? Because you're writing professionally now, right?
Yeah.
Full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Support.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all I have to say. I mean, my husband does a. I won't say he's a fan, but I will say that he recognizes the hard work that I do.
Right.
I make enough to live. I don't make enough to travel or anything like that.
Yeah.
So as long as you're all right with that,
Mm-hmm.
you can do it professionally and be all right.
Yeah.
I have quite a few writer friends who are like that. They write their own stuff and they do pretty well, but there's just no extravagancies of life. That's all.
Basically.
Yeah.
But you have the smartphone, so there's that, right?
I do. That's all you need, really.
That's basically.
Yeah, a smartphone and a VR visor. You're fine.
Yeah, you're fine. Okay. Do you have any more advice for people starting out in writing? Because you've given out a lot already.
My advice is always the same. One, write every day. It doesn't matter how small. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's an outline. It doesn't matter if it's just dialogue. It doesn't matter if it's just prose. Write every day. It doesn't matter if it's a half an hour. It doesn't matter if it's 5 hours. Every day, just put something on paper.
Yeah.
That's it. Just get in the practice of doing it every day. Thing number one. Thing number two, read every day. Read every day. Read every day. Doesn't matter. Again, and I'm not talking about online articles, even though those are informative sometimes.
Yeah.
Read every day. Take a book, sit in the corner, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, doesn't matter. Read every day. To get the vocabulary, to feel the flow of somebody else's headspace, that's all.
Yeah. Are you familiar with, or are you a proponent of this sort of theory? Yes, read every day, but like just read something every day, like read widely. Do you believe in that? Or
Yeah,
do you
read different things. Read fiction, read nonfiction, read essays, read satire, read comics, read manga, read many different things. It doesn't really matter what it is.
Okay. So you have a fantasy series and you have the creative nonfiction.
That's right.
Do you have a preference between them?
No.
Is it like?
I mean, I would.
Whichever one you're doing at the moment is the darling of your life, and.
The fantasy series is the darling of my life.
Yeah.
That's the thing I've started with. That's the thing I will probably end with when I die.
Right.
And it's many of those characters have been with me so long. They are family. So I have no qualms about, let's say, giving up the nonfiction side if I had to.
Right.
But people like the nonfiction and they enjoy sharing and laughing at my misery, and I'm glad to share it with them. I would not spend the rest of my life on the nonfiction alone. I could, however, spend the rest of my life on the fantasy alone.
All right, so this is the part of the end. We're near the end here. This is the time when you can plug your work.
Oh my gosh. There are a lot of books. If you like pirates, read The Leaf Flute and the Meriden novellas. If you like short fiction fantasy, read Tales from Freywin. If you like nonfiction, start with I Hate Summer or I Hate Everyone if you're a misanthropist like I am.
Yeah.
And we're going to have the 4th Meriden novella coming out at the end of the summer. And then in the fall is going to be I Hate Everything. That's it. That's all
Excellent.
I'm plugging.
All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been Everyday Expertise. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this interview. Be sure to share this video with friends and colleagues who may also enjoy this topic. Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment below or check the description for our social media. See you next time.